I'm the founder of Lord and Lentini Coaching and Training, the best getting better, and I'm certified with Southwestern Consulting, which is sales training with coaching. And I've done both. I've done just sales training. I had a license for a national sales training program, and I've done coaching with training. And I've done that for 25 years on my own. And I decided to add Southwestern Consulting because I'm at capacity for individual coaching. I still do take some clients, but it's an exception. And the beauty of my certification and alignment with Southwestern Consulting is that we have 220 coaches that many of them have been coaching for over 10 years and training in leadership and training in sales. And I'm going to start with a few questions to give you some example of how I coach people. I'll ask you all right now, how many of you have a little voice in your head that's talking to you incessantly? It's making you afraid of certain things. It's holding you back. It doesn't serve you everywhere. We call that self-talk, and we help people with that. And I've been helping people with that for 25 years, what I call the acorn brain. And you can have a name for it. The little tyrant, for example, some people have told me. Rainier Maria Rilke in the 1800s called it the little hooligan. Will you let the little hooligan run you, he would ask, or will you run it? George Ivanovich Gurdjieff called it the machine. We have a voice inside us that is actually not serving us. And if you're in sales or leadership, often we're making a quick judgment, a reaction based on information that just isn't true. It's based on something that I call a reaction. I hyphenate it. A reaction is something previously learned. And the beauty is that over time, with some work, you can actually create new neural pathways in your brain if you spend time observing yourself, observing how often you're trapped in that little voice, letting it run you, taking you down the path of anger or bitterness or sadness or depression, or that you're less than someone. Or how about this? You're more than others. That voice does not serve you. You want to get to a place where you can surf the waves of life, not control the waves of life. And often salespeople are so attached to outcomes that their future clients can smell it. It's called commission breath. It stinks. They're not self-aware. They're not self-observant. They have no idea they can change that voice. They're just quota, quota, quota. And the boss doesn't help. Sales management or leadership doesn't help with, what did you close lately? Again, that's that little voice, the machine running. And if we don't get to the machine and teach people how to go to the neuro gym, and spend some time switching from that voice that might be the controller in you, the stickler that wants everyone to do it your way, or the restless one that you can't stay focused on one thing or another. As soon as a rabbit runs by, you're like the dog in the yard that chases the rabbit, and then a squirrel runs by. Oh, I think I'll get the squirrel. That voice doesn't serve us, and there's many aspects of it. In fact, if you want to research some work yourself, buy the book Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine, and he gives you some physical exercises that'll help you, and then some exercises in the neuro gym that'll take you out of that small-minded thinker, the hooligan, the tyrant, the acorn brain, and bring you in line with infinite thinking. Joe Dispenza calls it the quantum field, that you can create anything in the quantum field. That first you have to see it in your mind and then feel it. You have to have the emotions about what you want to achieve as if you've already achieved it. That's creating new neural pathways that are positive and that you can default to more automatically when you build those new neural pathways. If that work is not part of what you're training people, because if you're training people on techniques and tactics, you're taking them further away from self-awareness. They won't make connections with people that are authentic. That's what the buying public wants today. I've talked about it in my book, Helping People Buy. Dave Brown talks about it in his new book that came out in August, Servant Selling. And Dave is one of the partners of Southwestern Consulting. We're like-minded. It's one of the reasons I joined him. And then I have some clients that I've had for January to be 24 years for one client and 20 years with another, and they've achieved amazing things. One has built a whole company that I do work in with him. Another client is now a national and international sales director. These were all things they could not imagine many years ago. And as you develop your imagination, you'll find that your future is even larger than what you've imagined. Both of those people that I just mentioned that are in my coaching and work for a long time have futures that are beyond what they imagined. And this is because they've overcome that small-minded thinker. And they're modeling the infinite, whatever you call it. As long as you have something that you believe is higher than you, a higher power, a higher authority. We can all see examples, especially today, of small-minded thinking. When one group stands up and does this, blames the other group, makes the other group wrong, and then the other group does the same thing, there's nothing in between. Do you see the gap? It's a dialogue that creates a bridge. Would you rather a bridge or a bay between all the people you work with, all the people that you want to sell, all the people in your life? It's up to you. You can believe that little small-minded thinker, that voice that's incessant, insidious. It operates all day long, but who's the programmer of it? Some people believe all their thoughts. They don't believe they have any power to remind themselves, reprogram themselves. Joe Dispenza uses remind. I recommend you listen to some of his YouTubes or read any of his books or listen to them on Audible. The top producers are students of the game. They have a coach, but they're also continuing to learn and grow because they question their answers. And their goal is to reprogram their mind. Your mind is like a computer. And all of the things we've learned in the past, that's where your mind, your brain has an advantage over you. It remembers every failure, every falling, every mistake, every decision that seemed like a good idea at the time that didn't work out so well, every embarrassment, every humiliation. Your brain has that advantage, and you can reprogram it. Every time, though, you react, you're clicking on an app that says, I'm angry, but I'm going to make them right. I'm going to show them that I'm right. I'm going to teach them a lesson. When you click on revenge, when you click on, I'm going to sell this person and I don't care whether it serves them or not. When you're clicking on my commissions and you're spending the money before you even have it, you're not working to help people figure out whether you're a fit or not. And that's a two-way fit because you're listening to the programs that have been created by the machine, by the acorn brain, the little hooligan. Every time you listen to a thought the automatic thought that causes an automatic reaction, 95% of the time, they don't serve you. When you don't expand your thinking to model what created a universe, a limitless universe, that physicists have said the observer impacts the atomic particles and the subatomic particles. In fact, in the Luzerne Super Collider, physicists noted that as different researchers were present for some of the Super Collider experiments, the subatomic particles acted differently. And the only thing they could determine was the difference was there were different observers. There were different people there. And that quantum field that Joe Dispenza talks about is the infinite. It's where the infinite resides. I happen to know that for a fact because I had a near-death experience on November 18th. The anniversary of it is coming up shortly. It'll be 21 years where I got a glimpse of that infinite grace, infinite mercy, infinite love, but way beyond what I call our acorn brain, that little hooligan. And I have some bad news too, because it still operates in me, even though I've been doing this work now for over 25 years, and especially 21 years after that near-death experience. Our job is to overcome all that small-minded thinking. And that infinite quantum field, God, the creator, that made all these different species and different races of people, different kinds of people. I mean, to me, we're all the human race, but we have our differences to learn to overcome them, but not just to tolerate them, to accept them, to embrace life. Because what I noted was when I was on the other side, when I was in what I now call what's next, there was only the now. Only the now, which led me to the greatest lesson of my life, that the divine is never absent. That quantum field is never absent. The infinite is never absent. God is never absent. That everyone and everything that reaches us was never meant to miss us. And to embrace life as all gifts from the infinite. The ones that show up that bug you are especially gifts, because they're showing you some aspect of yourself you have yet to embrace. And I can tell you, most salespeople are complaining about their bosses and their leadership. They think they can do it better. Most leaders are complaining about their leadership instead of embracing it. That's my next book. Learn to see what most people miss and embrace the gift of life. It's all a gift. But unless you're willing to question your thinking, unless you're willing to go against that little hooligan, that acorn brain, that little small voice, and reprogram it and learn your power, it won't happen. And that's okay. Because most people believe that thinking and that they have no power to reprogram it. And that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of discovering their power to impact every moment by how they respond, by whether they embrace every moment with joy, knowing that it's all the divine. A few weeks ago, I stopped in a rest area on the way to New Hampshire, and a guy knocked on my window and said, "I'm sorry to bother you, but I don't have any money. I can't get gas." I said, "No, that's fine. I don't need the story." And I gave him money. And he was very grateful. I said, "Just pay it forward." And I rolled up the window and said, "Thank you, God. Thank you, the divine. Thank you, the creator. Thank you, the infinite, for allowing me to serve you." Because I know that every moment is something to embrace. I can only control me. Years ago, that acorn brain would have said, "Get a job." But until we can overcome it, and until that's part of your work, whether you're the boss of the company and you do that work with leadership, discovering whether they're more negative than positive, and then working to help them. And I'm glad to come in and help, but there's plenty of other people that have this kind of training to help you overcome small-minded thinking. That's the work. And I call it waking up in life. And it takes a force of will. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff said that. Look him up. He said that most people are in a bourgeoisie sleeping state and that it takes a force of will to wake oneself up in one's lifetime. And what he was referring to and what he worked with people with was overcoming the machine, not letting the machine run them. And that you have the option to reprogram your mind, to remind yourself. And MRIs have shown new neural pathways open when people challenge that automatic thinking. But you have to prove that to yourself. In my book, You Might Be Full of Shit If, the first chapter is never follow anything or anyone blindly, even me. You prove it to yourself. You can make your life. You can be the scientist of your life, experimenting with new ways to respond, new ways to approach everything, your job, your clients, your future clients, your prospects. You'll close more, and you'll identify those that are not a fit and find a good option for them because you know you live in something abundant. If you're hanging on tight to everything, hanging on tight to your money, not wanting to share, you're not appreciating others, you're not grateful and expressing gratitude everywhere, before you eat, when you're with others, expressing gratitudes, you're stuck in small-minded, angry, bitter thinking. The machine is running you, and that's okay. The gift in that little voice is, I'm going to give you a clue here. It's in my book. It's there to wake you up. It's there to get you to the point where you say, enough of this. I am a powerful creator of my own experience. And you start to make new choices that are based on a response, an intelligent response that serves you. If someone's angry, you'll say, I see you're angry. Was it something I did? Let's talk about it. Instead of responding with anger, defending yourself, wanting to prove you're right. But again, if this all makes sense, fine. You can reach out to me, S. Lentini at southwesternconsulting.com or Steve at stevelentini.com, whatever one is easier for you to remember. You can message me on LinkedIn. Whatever you choose to do, I encourage you to do it. You'll find an amazing life awaits you because nothing from the outside defines you, by the way. If that acorn brain is telling you, you better write a book so you'll be appreciated, you better sell more, you better be number one, none of that gives you any value. And you'll keep searching. You'll keep trying to answer the question, I'll be satisfied when? Be satisfied when I get the new job. I'll be satisfied when I write the book. I'll be satisfied when I'm the boss. I'll be satisfied when I start a company. Those don't last long. If you reflect on it, you'll prove to yourself that I'll be satisfied when is a question. You'll never be satisfied because when the new thing comes, you're going to want something else because you're living from the outside in. It's best to live from the inside out, to decide to be satisfied. Get up every day and say, wow, another day to surf the waves of life. You could fight life. As Eckhart Tolle says, though, when you fight life, life fights you. You might find that to be your experience now. I've helped people with it for over 25 years with amazing results that they proved to themselves. When they try to give me credit for it, I say, no. If you weren't open, there'd be no story to tell. You wouldn't be re-enrolling after 23 years or after 19 years or after 10 years, 8 years. That's up to you. I wish you well on your journey into self-observation if you decide to do it. And I'll let you know when my new book is out, In Plain Sight. Learn to see what most people miss and embrace the gift life is. Thank you. I'm grateful for anyone that sees this, that undertook the energy it took to stay in against that acorn brain saying, hey, You don't need this. Maybe not. Thanks.